Welcome to Curious Nightmares, the channel where your fears and deepest curiosities collide. Prepare for spine-tingling tales and eerie explorations into the supernatural. Subscribe and stay tuned for hair-raising stories.
True horror story. My terrifying experiences at the escape room, and if you told me that a simple night out with friends would turn into a living nightmare, I would have laughed it off. But that's exactly what happened. We live in a small town, the kind where everyone knows your name, and the most exciting event is the annual fall fair. It was a place where days blended into each other, and for a group of thrill-seekers like us, it was stifling. My friends, Jake, a mechanic who could fix anything, Lily, the brains of our group with her love for puzzles, and Mike, the life of the party, were my escape from the mundanity. That's when we heard about the escape room. It was an oddity, a one-night-only event in an old warehouse on the edge of town. The flyers promised an experience like no other, a challenge for even the most seasoned puzzle solvers. It was exactly what we were looking for, a taste of excitement, a break from our everyday routine. The night we decided to go, the air was crisp with the onset of fall. Our town, usually asleep by 9, seemed even quieter as we made our way to the warehouse. It stood at the edge of town, a relic from a more prosperous time, now just a shell of its former self. As we approached, the warehouse loomed over us, its walls graffiti-tagged, windows broken. A faint light spilled from the entrance, where a lone figure waited. He was tall, thin, with a look in his eyes that I couldn't place then. He greeted us with a too-wide smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Welcome to the ultimate escape experience," he said, his voice smooth as silk and just as unnerving. We exchanged nervous glances but stepped inside. The door closed behind us with a thud that echoed in my chest. Inside, the air was heavy, the lighting dim. The lobby was decorated with odd trinkets that cast eerie shadows. The excitement we felt was now tinged with a hint of fear, but we were too caught up in the thrill to notice. We signed our names on a waiver that the host handed us, his grin never faltering. As he led us to the first room, I remember thinking how this was exactly what we needed, a night of adventure, a story to tell. Little did we know, it would be a story of survival. As we stepped into the first room of the escape game, the door closed behind us with a sound that felt too final. The room was dimly lit, walls adorned with old, peeling wallpaper, and an air of neglect that made it feel like we had stepped into another era. The game had begun. "This is creepy," Lily whispered, her voice barely above a breath. I could see the excitement in her eyes, mixed with a hint of apprehension. We were in her element now, surrounded by puzzles and mysteries waiting to be solved. The host had vanished as soon as the game started, his parting words, "You have 1 hour," echoing in the room. We glanced at each other, the thrill of the challenge igniting our spirits. "Let's do this," Jake said, a determined look on his face. We fanned out, searching for clues. The first puzzle was a simple lock and key mechanism hidden behind a loose painting. We found the key in a dusty old book on a shelf crammed with tattered novels and forgotten memories. "One down," Mike cheered, his voice echoing in the enclosed space. As we moved to the next challenge, the puzzles became increasingly complex, the atmosphere more oppressive. The room was filled with antique furniture. One puzzle led us to a clock with hands that moved in reverse, another to a mirror that showed more than our own reflections. The air grew colder, the shadows deeper. There were sounds too, subtle at first. A creak here, a whisper there. We told ourselves it was all part of the experience, but a creeping sense of unease began to settle in. In one corner of the room, we found a chest. It was old, the wood warped and the metalwork intricate. Opening it revealed a series of letters and photographs, each telling a fragment of a story that felt too real, too personal. "Guys, this is getting weird," Lily said, her voice tinged with nervousness. Then we found it, a hidden door, cleverly disguised in the wall paneling. It was our way out, the end of the first challenge. Relief washed over us as we pushed it open, eager to see what lay beyond. But as we stepped into the next room, that relief turned to horror. The room was starkly different, modern, almost clinical, with fluorescent lights that hummed in the silence. The stark contrast from the previous room's antiquated feel was jarring. We stood there momentarily disoriented, trying to comprehend this sudden shift. Our confusion was cut short by the sound of the door locking behind us. The click of the lock resonated like a warning. This is getting intense, Mike muttered, eyeing the room warily. The puzzles here were more mechanical, involving switches and levers that seemed to activate hidden mechanisms in the walls. It was like being inside a giant, twisted machine. We divided tasks, each of us focusing on a different puzzle. The sense of urgency was noticeable. As we worked, I couldn't shake off the feeling of being watched. I glanced around, half expecting to see the host lurking in a corner, but there was no one. Just shadows that seemed to move when you didn't look directly at them. It was during one such puzzle, a complex maze of wires and circuits, that the first truly strange thing happened. As Jake reached out to adjust a wire, a spark flew, and the lights flickered ominously. "What the hell?" he exclaimed, jumping back. We laughed it off, attributing it to faulty wiring, but the incident left us uneasy. The room felt less like a game and more like a trap. Then Lily found a puzzle that chilled us to the bone. It was a simple box, but inside was a collection of items that looked disturbingly personal. A child's toy, a woman's bracelet, a man's watch. Each item was tagged with a name. "This is someone's idea of a sick joke," Lily said, her voice trembling. Then came the moment that changed everything. We were working on a puzzle that required us to listen to a series of recorded messages and decipher a code. The voices in the recordings were distorted, but as we listened, a realization dawned on us. They were cries for help, pleas of terror. My blood ran cold. "We need to get out of here," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "This isn't right." But the door to the next room only opened when we solved the final puzzle. Finally, we completed it, the sounds of those haunted voices echoing in our ears. The door clicked open, leading us deeper into the labyrinth. We stepped through, each of us carrying the weight of what we had just experienced. What we didn't know then was that the true horror was still waiting for us. Mike led the way, jokingly inspecting the trophies. "This guy had some serious issues," he laughed, trying to lighten the mood. But his laughter died as he reached for a seemingly innocuous book on a shelf. The moment he touched it, a hidden mechanism triggered. There was a sharp sound like gears grinding, followed by a thud. Suddenly, one of the walls swung open, and Mike was caught in its path. The impact was brutal. He cried out in pure agony as the wall pinned him against another. Panic ensued. We rushed to his aid, trying desperately to free him, but the wall was immovable, part of some sick puzzle we had yet to solve. The realization hit us like a wave. This was no game, it was a trap. Mike's face was pale, his breaths shallow. "Get me out of here," he gasped, pain etched in every word. We frantically searched for a way to release the mechanism, our minds racing against time. Every second felt like an eternity. It was Lily who found the solution, a series of levers hidden in the room's decor. With trembling hands, we worked them, and finally the wall retracted, freeing Mike. But the damage was done. He was hurt, badly. There was no more laughter, no more thrill of solving puzzles. There was only fear, raw and unfiltered. We needed to escape, to get Mike medical help, but the way back was sealed, and the only way out was forward. We half-carried, half-dragged Mike through the next set of puzzles. Each step was a battle against our own terror. The rooms became a blur, each more twisted than the last, their puzzles a reflection of a disturbed mind. The next room was eerily quiet, a stark contrast to the chaos we'd just endured. In the center stood a phone, its ring piercing the silence. With a trembling hand, I picked it up. The voice on the other end was cold, emotionless. "You've done well to make it this far," it said, "but the game isn't over yet." The line went dead before I could respond. In one room, the walls were lined with newspaper clippings, detailing unsolved disappearances and chilling crimes. The puzzles here involved piecing together these stories, revealing a horrifying pattern. It became clear that the creator of this escape room was obsessed with these cases, perhaps even involved. Lily, with her sharp mind, noticed a recurring name in the clippings, Alexander G. Foster. A little more digging through the room's hidden compartments revealed a diary. The entries were erratic, filled with ramblings about being misunderstood. Foster's name was signed at the end of each entry. The more we read, the more we understood, or rather, the less we wanted to understand. This escape room was Foster's creation, his playground, and it seemed we were not the first to be lured into his game. As we moved from room to room, the atmosphere grew more oppressive. The air was thick with the sense of impending doom. Mike's condition worsened, his moments of lucidity fading. As we pieced together the final puzzle, unlocking the door to the next room, a chilling realization dawned on us. Foster was toying with us, making us relive the experiences of his victims. The last room we entered was unlike any other. It was a stark, empty space, save for a large, ominous-looking device in the center. This, we realized with a sinking feeling, was the final puzzle, and it was clear that Alexander G. Foster had saved his most diabolical creation for last. The device was a complex contraption of gears, levers, and screens, each part interlocking with the next. The puzzle was a race against time, a cruel test that demanded precision and calm qualities we were quickly running out of. Mike, despite his injuries, insisted on helping. "We're getting out of here together," he said, his voice strained with pain and determination. We worked together, each of us taking on a part of the puzzle, our movements synchronized in desperate urgency. The puzzle was a labyrinth in itself. Every time we thought we were close to solving it, another layer would reveal itself, plunging us deeper into frustration and fear. It felt like an eternity, our minds and bodies pushed to their limits. As we neared the end of the puzzle, the room began to change. Walls started moving, closing in on us, adding a physical danger to our already strained mental battle. It was as if the room itself was alive. Finally, with mere seconds left on the clock, we solved the last part of the puzzle. The device emitted a loud click, and the walls halted their ominous advance. A door slid open, revealing the way out. We didn't celebrate our victory. There was no joy, only relief mixed with a deep, lingering fear. We supported Mike, half carrying him as we stumbled out of the escape room and into the night. We rushed Mike to the hospital, his condition critical. The night had started as an adventure, a game, but it ended in a nightmare that was all too real. The hospital's bright lights and sterile walls were a stark contrast to the darkness we had just escaped. We were a mess of tears and blood, our cries echoing down the corridors as we carried Mike in. The medical staff sprang into action, but their faces told a story we didn't want to hear. In the waiting room, time stood still. We sat, numb and exhausted, our minds replaying the night's horrors. When the doctor finally came out, his expression was somber. "I'm sorry," he said, and those two words shattered the fragile hope we were clinging to. Mike was gone. The loss was unbearable, a pain that went beyond physical. The police arrived soon after, their questions a dull buzz in my ears. We told them everything. The escape room, the puzzles, the traps, but our words felt hollow, unbelievable even to our own ears. They searched for the warehouse, for any trace of Foster or his escape room, but found nothing. It was as if the building had vanished, leaving no evidence of the nightmare we had endured. Their skepticism was evident, and I couldn't blame them. Days turned into weeks, and life stumbled on. We attended Mike's funeral, a somber affair that left us feeling empty. The town whispered about us, about what had happened, but their words were just noise. They couldn't understand, couldn't comprehend the depth of our trauma. The investigation hit a dead end. There were no suspects, no leads, nothing. Foster was a ghost, his existence as fleeting as the escape room he had created. We were left with our memories, our nightmares, and a gaping hole where Mike used to be. I tried to find solace in routine, in the mundane tasks of everyday life, but the escape room's shadow loomed over everything. Sleep brought no respite, only nightmares where I relived the horrors, each time waking up in a cold sweat, gasping for air. Therapy, support groups, medication. I tried them all, but the pain, the fear, the loss, they clung to me. The faces of my friends, especially Mike's, haunted my waking hours. His loss was a constant ache, a reminder of the price we paid for our curiosity. Then came the puzzle piece, a simple, wooden piece, innocuous to anyone else. But to me, it was a symbol of dread. I found it in my mailbox one morning. No note, no explanation. Just a piece of a puzzle we never finished. The police said it was probably a prank, but I knew better. It was Foster's calling card, a chilling reminder that he was still out there, watching, playing his twisted game. So I waited, every day a test of nerves, wondering when the next piece would come, when Foster would make his next move. But nothing came. The silence was almost worse than the threats, a psychological noose that tightened with each passing day.